Videos rolling. Audio in three, two, one.
Welcome to the Clubhouse Degenerates. It's a different clubhouse, Mondo.
It is.
We're 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 in a much bluer. I guess I was gonna say more cluttered. It isn't necessarily more cluttered, but we just don't have it set up quite as well. So we're in my study area right now. Both dogs in the study, and many tripods and various things have been knocked into by said dogs.
Yeah, not there's you have a lot of debris on the floor, which it causes Violet to like look like she's picking chapstick up off. Hey,
Mondo,
anyway, yeah, there's a bunch of stuff, and then Finn wants to play with me now because he's my buddy,
you yelled, "Hey!" He's like, "What?"
and so yeah, there's a lot of stuff here for Violet to pick up and ruin the the flow of this episode. Anyway,
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I thought there would be somebody else here to watch them. I did not think they'd be in here with us,
uh-huh.
but that's probably on me. I've been super busy with a lot of stuff, and so I'm sure it was communicated to me that there would be no one here to watch them, and I was like, and then just in one ear, out the other. Um, but in my defense, a lot of times these things are told to me where I'm like coming back into the house briefly to grab a tool. I've just been up on the scaffolding. I'm trying to build stuff. That is where my mind and my heart still is. So I'm not the best at retaining uh, knowledge of people's plans and lunch dates and things when I'm in building mode.
Yeah. So just a little housekeeping, I guess.
Yeah, what are you being up to, Mondo?
Jesus, this weekend has been a a pile of shit. What is it? 10 pounds of shit in a 5 pound bag for me. I haven't been sleeping well this weekend. Normally, I'm okay. I've been sleeping better, but this weekend I've had tummy issues, sleep issues. Um, us having to reschedule, or initially we were talking about moving this podcast to a later time, but I had a customer of mine who we were supposed to have a brunch date set up for today, and that got all screwed because yesterday, apparently, little Miss Violet's also having tummy issues. While when I take a shower, I let her just roam free in the apartment. If I ever leave, let's say I go to a concert or a show or anything like that, then I'll put her in her crate for like an hour or two. Like I don't like to leave her more than an hour or two at a go, but she'll be in her crate, so I don't have that worry of her like roaming around the apartment, peeing somewhere, shitting somewhere. When she's in her crate, she's usually pretty good. So on Saturday morning, I get up,
Reorganizing your figurine collection.
reorganizing the figurines, cleaning up the apartment.
Should be like, hey, I think this figurine needs some teeth marks. That's what it's missing.
Yeah.
Let me fix that for you.
Oh no, I've violet proofed the apartment for the most part. But that being said, I took her for a walk. She relieved herself and everything, and I was like, okay, I got a little bit of a sweat in. Let me take a shower so I can go grab lunch or something. And when I shower, I don't think to put her back in her crate. I let her just roam around. I go in the shower, I come out, I open the door, and like, fortunately, I look before I just walk out like an idiot. But there was just a nice pool of shit, watery pool of shit, right in front of the door. It's like she was leaving us like a present for me or something. So that was yesterday morning.
Or she was trying to send you a message. She's like, hey, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like, like old style mob boss, like they'd leave like a bloodied pig's heart on someone's doorstep. It's like that. She was trying to tell you that if you keep putting her in their crate, this is what you get.
No, again, so she wasn't in her crate. She was in anyway. So I cleaned it up. I'm fucking pissed. She's got shit on her fucking feet and everything. So I have to like clean just about everywhere in the floor in the apartment. Luckily, she didn't get any on like carpeted or the couch or anything. Cleaned it up, put her in her crate. I was like, fuck this. I need, by that time it was getting late and went and had lunch, came back, and she was still in the crate, whatever. This morning, I wake up, she's in her crate. She shat in her crate.
Oh, that's bad.
And so my brunch plans with my customer, I had text. Last night I'd gone out to buy a bottle of vodka because he wanted to make Bloody Marys and everything. Texted him in the morning. I was like, dude, I can't make it. I got this disaster. I gotta wash shit. I gotta wash shit, clean the the plastic tiled floor. You better not. You better not.
She is so close to pulling out a microphone cord right now. Oh, Jesus.
So I've been dealing with Little Miss Diva shitting, and so then I had to clean the crate out. I had to throw her. She's because I got a cushion thing that she sleeps on, so I had to throw that in the laundry. Sweep and mop the entire floor, clean the dog shit up the entire floor. And I had just cleaned the stuff from Saturday, so it was like 2 days back to back. And again, lack of sleep, and I haven't had an appetite. I haven't eaten anything all day today. Yesterday, I didn't eat anything until dinner or late lunch dinner. So it's not been a fun weekend for Armando. The highlight, though, not to sound completely Debbie Downer, the highlight, though, was I went to the LA Kings game on Wednesday. I had set myself on a calendar reminder on my phone to remind me like a day before, anytime the Kings come in town, Dodgers come in town, obviously when the Chargers are in season. So I got a notification Tuesday, hey, the Kings are in town Wednesday, bought a ticket kind of last minute, went to it, sat in a great seat. I had taken the Kings and the over was the line was 6 points, and the Kings won 5-2. So not only did the Kings win, I won a little bet. I bet like $10 to win like 40 or something like that. So it was an all shitty week, but let's just say it was mostly shitty week. Thanks to Violet. Appreciate it. What about you, Aaron?
Well, first off, I mean, that is just normal puppy stuff. Like, it sucks. It's not the most fun part of having a dog, but I think anyone who's ever had a puppy will have a similar story, usually multiple similar stories. So
yeah,
don't be too hard on her.
It's just it's probably easier when the load is on more than one person in maybe a bigger place.
Mm-hmm.
It's the fact that it's a tiny apartment.
Yeah.
And it's just me.
Oh yeah. She was not made for a small apartment.
And so you can imagine the smells were kind of bad between Saturday and Sunday.
I'd rather not.
So
it's all the same to you.
I opened the windows. I wiped everything down with their puppy spray stuff. Burned incense. I use a lot of chemicals to mask the horrible odor, and also opened up the door. And
yeah, so let's move on.
Yeah.
About that.
Your turn. What's been up with you, dude?
All kinds of stuff, man. It's been crazy busy, and I apologize. I mean, the last episode is not out because I think yesterday was the first time I could have actually had time to do the artwork for it. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get right to that. I'm just gonna lie down for like 2 seconds, and then it was morning.
Yeah.
Because so a couple of things. I mean, on the regular work side, we did episode 3 of it's called Sharp Action. It's a betting show with this MMA handicapper and Gilbert Melendez.
Didn't you tell me that they were gonna pull the plug on that though?
So we did one episode, and the rollout was just terrible. I mean, like, it was really uncoordinated. No one was even sure where it was getting posted, that kind of thing. And then the second one, it was Gilbert Melendez, who he was the Strikeforce champion. I don't think he ever fought for a title in the UFC, but he's pretty high profile even in the UFC.
Yeah.
And he's like, fuck it, like I'll post it. I'll post it on my social media. Let's have all my stuff be the hub for it. Because my guess is he's probably getting pretty decent money for it. I'm getting okay money, and
he's getting money from the betting source, right?
Our Jesus Christ, dogs. The dogs are they about to fight? Hey, Finn, don't fight.
Violet.
Jesus. Yeah. So the first 2 episodes, the money came from the betting site betonline.ag, and so I don't know how much he's getting paid, but it takes him like 10 minutes of work.
Yeah.
So if he's getting $200, he's getting $200 for 10 minutes.
I'm sure he's getting more than 200. He's probably getting a couple thou, I think, or maybe like a lump sum. He might be getting like.
Yeah, I doubt. Honestly, I doubt it's. I bet it's a few hundred. I bet he's maybe getting like 500 or 600. But
okay,
it's like virtually no work. So I'm sure he wanted to keep doing it. And then the actual product, I think, is really good. It looks really professional. Like the The picks were pretty good. People were making money if they're betting on them, but Jesus Christ, I'm gonna have to pause. I got to figure out what to do with them.
Yeah. So while you do that, I will keep talking. Looks like Violet and Finn want to play, but they're wooden floors and are set up with lights and shit. And here in Aaron's little studio, you could see that if you're watching the video, you could see everything bouncing around. It looks like a fucking earthquake is happening because of these fucking dogs. The whole idea of having moved the studio here was so that we can leave the dogs to play, and then we could be in solitude and do our podcast and shit. Because when we were in my apartment, I'm sure you guys have noticed like barking in the background and shit like that. That's because I usually throw Violet in her crate or in the bathroom. So the idea of moving it here was to kind of mitigate all the background issues. So obviously we're doing the dry run.
Hopefully it stays dry with all the Violet tummy troubles. But
yeah.
Okay. So
BetOnline.ag.
Just to wrap that all up. There's been a lot of work with that on top of the normal work that I have for LFA. So I've been like just about doing full-time hours the last few weeks for LFA, like probably like just a little bit north of 40 hours a week. But then I'm also trying to do all this building stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was the other thing. I had hoped that by this point the fence in the backyard would be completely done, so we could just turn them loose out there and they could roam around, get into trouble, what have you. And that fence is like 70% done, and then I had to stop to start working on other stuff, just because I'm ready to actually put siding up on the house, which is exciting. And then it's going to be completely dried in, and once the siding is up, there's nothing I have to do like pressing. Like everything can take up to 6 months, where I could do one little thing and I have 6 months to do it, and I can do the next little thing. Obviously, I don't want to take that long for everything, but I just don't have like a ticking clock when something has to be done once the siding is in. So I'm excited about that. But like I had to build this whole front porch cover. I had to they call them external penetrations, Mondo.
Ooh.
It sounds sexy. It's not. It's just where like your electrical outlets, your external electrical outlets, you have to do those ahead of time. You have to, where your washer and dryer vent, you have to put all that shit in. So that's all been happening. And dude, I have been getting the fucking shit beat out of me in the process.
Physically, mentally,
a little bit of everything.
Nice.
The highlights or lowlights, if you will, was I got probably the worst electric shock of my life. Because I've had a bunch of little ones when I'm doing electrical work, and you don't realize something's live. And it's just sort of like, oh, what was that? And then you just go back to working. This one, to put the fence in, it was still pretty cold when I was doing it. There's still snow on the ground at one point, and the ground was so hard that I had to actually jackhammer up the earth with this 35-pound demolition hammer. It's called. Looks like just like a small jackhammer. And at one point, I went to pick up an extension cord that was plugged into the jackhammer.
The snow was wet.
Didn't realize it wasn't even the snow. I was standing in a puddle.
Oh.
And did not realize that there was a tear in the electrical cord. I just got the shit shocked out of me. And right when it happened, I was like, oh, okay, and I dropped it. I'm like, knew exactly what it was. I'm like, oh yeah, that wasn't that bad. Just go back to working. And then 5 minutes later, my body's like, oh, you're dead. You're done.
What do you mean?
Like, I just couldn't, like, I was planning on working for another hour and a half, 2 hours. And I just had to go inside and like sit down. Like I felt like,
it took a while for like the full effects to, it wasn't like you got shocked a second time. It was
Mondo. Let's say if I was an iPhone,
mm-hmm.
my battery charge was on like 50%. I'm like, yeah, I can go for a little bit. That happened. And I was on like 6. And I was like, no, we gotta recharge. We gotta get some food and some sleep and hopefully not have a heart arrhythmia. That wasn't the worst one though. The worst one was I wasn't even building related. I was just showing somebody the back area behind my house where the porch is going to go. Just someone who's trying to give an estimate. And I had not realized that during the big temperature changes in Denver, because it's been really, really cold. And then recently it got really warm.
Uh-huh.
The backside of the house gets very little sun. So there's big snow accumulation, and that had all melted and then refrozen into this just like slick sheen of ice where it was sort of angled downhill a little bit. So I had just been there the other day, and the footing wasn't great, but it was walkable. And I take one step, and I swear to God, it was like out of Home Alone 1. I was Joe Pesci, like Wet Bandits, where in that fucking movie, they're cartoon characters, right? They're getting burnt, they're getting tarantulas on them. They would have been in the hospital, courtesy of Kevin McAllister. I'm a real flesh and blood human, man, though.
Yeah.
My feet went just right out from under me, like feet above my head. Like I just rotated, and it was the hardest I've ever been hit in my head in my life.
Oh, you landed on your dome.
Just right. I mean, let's say feet fly out from under me, right up in the air, just head right into the ice. There's a really loud crunch. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was the ice. It was my head. It was my back. Who knows? And the first thought I had was like, there's no way I don't have a concussion. Because there was like that really bright flash of light. Have you ever been knocked in the head that you can get occasionally? And I guess that's probably actually was a good sign that I was thinking like, I probably shouldn't try to stand up right now because it's really icy. And if I'm dizzy, I'm going to slip all over again. And I mean, that, maybe comical in a Home Alone movie, not comical for your brain if you're trying to avoid.
So you just laid there for a second just to kind of gather yourself.
Yeah, and the guy was like, "Dude, are you all right?" I'm like,
"Oh, there was people there."
No, that's what I'm saying. I brought someone back who was trying to give an estimate. So he's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "No, I don't think so." He's like, "Dude, that sound was gnarly, man." I'm like, "Yeah, pretty sure I have a concussion." He's like, "Well, you don't sound like your words are slurred." Like, well, that's good because they normally are if you listen to our podcast.
Yeah.
Hey, shout out to the Degenerates Clubhouse. No, I didn't plug our podcast right after that. But the only upside was, I guess, my mom from the adjacent lot happened to be looking out the window right when that happened. And then she was like, if there's any more like high wire stuff and ladders, we're gonna pay for it. Like if you need to pay painters instead of you going up on scaffolding, we'll pay for it. Like I'm like, oh, okay, I should fall on my head more often. That's all I had to do to get the house painted. Awesome, let's go. So that's all happened. There's still so much more I have to do before, in theory, before Tuesday. I'm gonna have to push it back, but I'm almost done building this front porch cover. Almost done like building the fence, but then there's like 20 more things I have to do. It's really, really tiring. And yeah, that knock on the head, I don't seem to be too worse for wear, but it hurt my soul more than my body, Mondo. It just takes it out of you a little, especially when, like I said, you cartoonishly fall and knock your head in front of someone trying to give an estimate.
I had an incident where I slipped and fell on some again, it's very shiny, sheeny, like it looks like just like wet water on the ground, and it was ice. But fortunately, mine was nowhere near as severe as yours. Like I landed on my ass bone, and there was another woman walking her dog. This was months and months ago. She's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." Walked it off. No big deal. My ass hurt for like a week. No bruises, but man, I can imagine landing on your neck or back or anything like that. It must have fucking sucked.
It's where I have slipped on ice so many times because Finn and I will go trail running in the winter, and sometimes it looks like it's snow, and then you just step on a patch in size. I've fallen on ice numerous times, but I can always sort of catch my balance, or even if I slip and I'm falling backwards, I can kind of like tuck and like roll off my shoulder. All those years of grappling and wrestling and everything, it kind of teaches you how to fall. And this one, it was so fast. It was just feet out, no time, head right on the ice.
But the ice is no joke out here. Anywhere it snows, really, you see it on TV about cars like sliding and shit, and it's like you think it's funny, and but it happens here. Like this is real. This happens to us. I saw a woman like 2 weeks ago. She was coming over like a hilly area, and as she was coming down, her car did a complete slow 360. Fortunately for her, there were no cars in front of her. I was the closest car behind her, and I came to a slow stop, put my hazards on so no one could like pass me. Like I took the the middle. Um, so
Yeah, let's move on
yeah,
to some local Denver news. I'll give you the details. I know a local establishment named Shotgun Willie's was in the news, and you might be asking yourself, "What is Shotgun Willie's? Is it a children's museum? Is it a floral garden?" Nope, it is a gentleman's establishment. That's a fancy way of saying it. Mono, what's the degenerate way of saying it?
it's a fucking strip club.
Yeah, and the reason it was in the news was because the Memphis Grizzlies, the professional basketball team slash wannabe gangster show, was in town to play the Denver Nuggets. And after said victory, and I think the Grizzlies won. I can't remember, but what was in the headlines was Grizzlies players, who's their franchise player, star player. Like, I think for a while people were talking about him becoming the face of the franchise. Because I'm trying to think how to describe him. Mondo, you remember Allen Iverson, right?
Sure. Who doesn't remember AI?
He's like AI if AI was like 6'3" and had a 50-inch vertical.
Okay, basketball.
He can jump just mind-bogglingly high.
Okay.
Like he just levitates, but he kind of has that AI quality to him, and apparently off the court as well a little bit, because there have been all sorts of weird goings on with John Morant. Like there was an incident I think is still being looked into where they were playing the Pacers, and his little entourage got into a scuffle with I think some of the Pacers players, and then after the game, a car filled with said entourage members were following a van or bus with Pacers players and pointed like some sort of laser pointer.
Oh,
And right, exactly, because it's like you don't know, is this just little show and tell presentation laser pointer, or is this a scope on some sort of weapon? And the way these guys roll, the Pacers just assumed, oh, they're about to snipe us.
yeah.
So that wasn't cool. And then there's been like one or two other things like that, and then most recently, it wasn't even that John Morant tattled on himself. John Morant celebrating the game goes to Shotgun Willie's, not the classiest of strip clubs.
You said this is here in town?
This is, I believe, this is on Colorado Boulevard.
No wonder. So I woke up and I just social media. It wasn't on the news stuff. It was even on my Instagram and my Facebook. I was like, who the fuck is this John Morant? I never heard of him.
Very famous in the basketball world.
Got it.
And yeah, he had I think he'd posted an Instagram live video of him, and in the video, the fucking dumbass flashes a gun.
Nice.
And the NBA has really no tolerance for that. I mean, I think after there's this giant brawl, this was years ago in Detroit, that has been dubbed Malice at the Palace, where players went into the stands and it was a whole thing. Like the NBA just does not fuck around.
Can I make a really shitty generalism?
Okay.
Observation. When you're talking to sports, there's baseball, basketball, hockey, football, like the major American. I think generally speaking, basketball players are the dumbest motherfuckers. They're just fucking idiots. They're just, not to say that there's some really intelligent people out there, some really good business savvy guys. There are, but I think generally speaking, NBA players, there's a lot of fucking dum-dums.
Yeah, it's not even close compared to football.
You think football players are dumber?
Oh, way dumber.
But football requires you to get a college degree before you get drafted. In NBA, it's not a thing. Like you can just go from high school to basketball.
Yeah, and those degrees, I mean, they were really hitting the books.
Sure.
Like,
there's also you remember in an NFL team, there's 53-man roster times 32 teams. So there's that many more players.
Yeah, it's just more noticeable because in basketball, like you were saying, I think it's a 15-man roster, and then particularly with star players, it's just so much harder to blend into the woodwork.
Got it.
So it gets magnified, and for better or worse, right? Because I think NBA players have way more agency. They have a lot more say that what's happens to them in their career. They can kind of steer their own ship. And sometimes, they can pull their own guns in a strip club. So
did he do anything dumb aside from pull a gun on camera on his Instagram?
That's what all the hoopla is about.
Just pulling the gun out.
And then, and they're also trying to find out if he had taken the gun into any into any, I forget how they phrase it. Basically, any place that was involved with the NBA, like team locker room, team bus, team plane. Because if they have really, really strict rules about that.
Yeah.
But outside of that, they're like, it's the NBA. They're like, well, Shotgun Willie's not our jurisdiction. And I think, if I believe, Denver police have decided not to press charges.
Oh.
But yeah, I mean, if you're gonna do top 5 dumbest things that you could do in a strip club, I mean, that would be on it, right? Like pulling guns out in a strip club.
Well, I mean, you can actually. I mean, there again, going back to like NFL, there've been NFL players that have been caught beating their significant others and getting suspended. And there's the Michael Vick and the dog thing. So there's not a single sport.
Oh no, but I was saying top 5 dumbest things you could do in a strip club.
Oh yeah, don't take a gun in there. That's dumb.
If Michael Vick brought the pit bulls into the strip club, I mean yes, you're right. That would have been next level.
Dog fights in a strip club.
I was just trying to think of like dumb shit I've seen in strip clubs, and like somebody getting up on the stage. That has to be on the list.
Yeah, but that's actually kind of funny if you're rolling with it in a humorous way. But if you're going up there, if you're going on stage and waving a gun, there you go.
Ja Morant gets on stage, starts dancing, and people are like, "Wow, he's really good." Like he does it. What is it called? The gritty? I don't know what that dance is. I'm not into the hip hop scene quite like that. But he gets on. He starts dancing. People are like, "Wow, Ja's excellent." They're like, "He beat our Nuggets, but here you go." They're just throwing him dollar bills, and then he pulls the gun out, and the whole mood changes, right?
Sure.
So it's just Ja on the stage having fun. Maybe taking some tips from a hardworking stripper, but is what it is. Whole vibe changes when you pull the gun out.
Bad boy, bad Ja.
Yeah, and he's going to take some time away to figure things out and get help. And they're still kind of waiting to see what the NBA does and everything like that.
Let's move on.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think maybe even just skip the Wild Bill thing.
Okay.
All
right.
Well, we took so long on the house cleaning. But here's the one thing, Mondo, do we need to take an investigative expedition for science, for Shotgun Willie's?
Oh, I don't think strip clubs is your jive. I know it's not mine.
It's not at all. When I just saw that, I'm like, wow, that's some degenerate shit right there.
Yeah.
Ja Morant at a strip club, and then I might get this wrong, but how the fuck do they say? Packing heat was an old one, but now that there's something about pipe. Like they call having a gun a pipe.
Oh.
So I was about to say he's packing pipe, and I'm like, no, I don't think that's what I meant. he might have been doing that at the strip club as well, but I think that means something different.
Yeah.
So no, it's not my thing. It's not your thing. But I was like, for the podcast and for science, I was thinking about it. Let's table that. We were going to do a degenerate history on Wild Bill Hickock because I thought, hey, notorious gunfighter, it would make sense. But we only got like half an hour left.
Yeah, something like that.
So what do you think? You want to just get into?
We can make it really quick if you want to do that. Or just completely skip it.
Yeah, let's just go real quick.
Okay, so Wild Bill Hickock, Degenerates History. We got to come up with a theme song we got to come up with more theme songs for our segments. I like the Florida Man one. I think that was a very good job on your part.
Yes, in between these massive building projects, I will get right on that. Next time I get electrocuted or crack my head on the ice and I need to take a break, that's what I will use the time for.
Cool. Wild Bill Hickock, Degenerates History. He saved the young Buffalo Bill Cody from a beating. Around the time young James Hickock began using his father's name of William, the wild part came later, and he also met Buffalo Bill Cody. Then just a messenger boy on a wagon train, Hickock saved Cody from getting beaten by another man, and the two became longtime pals.
Dude, you always need that friend. Do you have like a quick story you can remember where you had that friend that always had your back?
No.
You didn't have a friend that always had your back?
No, never had. In fact, I was the one that was always having my friends back if shit hit the fan. I could never name
Example.
so there was that incident with the Orthogonian house, Lancer house thing that one time where Francisco
Frat
Martinez
versus frat Royal Rumble.
frat versus frat Royal Rumble. Francisco Martinez was in his girlfriend's room, dorm room, and some drunk ass Orthogonians decided that they were just going to barge in the room. They walked in. They kind of were just kind of mean mugging and giving Frank some shit in front of his girlfriend, which is always already kind of like demeaning. And Frank calls like a bunch of Lancers, puts us all on the horn. Hey, we got to go fuck these guys up. Ricky, myself, a bunch of other Lancers. And this was funny because Christian Bollicker wasn't even a Lancer yet. And he went with us to the Orthogonian house. I probably shouldn't say this because I'm incriminating myself, but hey, time has passed. So I don't think I'll get into any legal trouble. But I ripped off their mailbox from the front of their house and threw it through their front window. And like in it broke window shit.
Mondo, that's a federal offense.
Is it?
Yeah.
All right.
If you're tampering with a federal mail, that is part of the U.S. government. The feds are going to drop their investigation on John Morant. They're coming after you now.
So yeah, there's a number of other
Okay.
scenarios where friends have gotten into some shit and I have to go.
That's so if I it's good to know. So if I ever need someone to rip a mailbox out, you're the first call I'm going to make.
Yeah, there's a couple other ones too, but we're running short on time. So, but that was number 2 for Wild Bill Hickock. He is said to have wrestled the bear. One of the best known stories about Hickock in his encounter with a bear after serving as a constable in Monticello, Kansas. He worked as a teamster driving freight across the country. On a run from Missouri to New Mexico, he found the road obstructed by a bear and its 2 cubs. Hickock shot the mother in the head, but that only made it angry and it attacked, crushing his chest, shoulder, and arm. He fired another shot into the bear's paw before finally killing it by slashing its throat. Hickok's injuries left him bedridden for several months.
Okay. I don't think it's impressive because one, he shot a bear. It makes it sound like he was like hand-to-hand wrestling it.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you were fighting a bear with a gun and your aim just wasn't very good. And here's the second part, Mondo.
Yes.
Was the bear on cocaine?
It would have been much better if it was on cocaine.
Yeah, but it probably wasn't, so I'm not impressed.
Number 5. Wild Bill was involved in one of the first fast draw duels. During the American Civil War, Hickock served as a teamster, scout, and some say spy before resigning and living as a gambler in Springfield, Missouri. There, on July 21st, 1865, another event that framed his gunslinging reputation occurred. During a poker game, tensions with a former friend, Davis Tutt, came to a head over gambling debts, triggering a standoff in the town square. The two stood sideways to each other 70 meters apart before firing simultaneously. Tutt's shot missed, but Hickock's hit Tutt in the ribs, and he collapsed and died. Hickock was acquitted of manslaughter, and in 1867, Harper's Magazine article recounted the incident made him famous across the country. Pretty good. Is it Dead Man's Hand? Is that Wild Bill Hickock or is that Billy the Kid?
That is Wild Bill Hickock.
Okay.
That was actually, I think, the very last one. I cut that out, but yeah, that was Wild Bill Hickock. Back in the day when gambler was a profession, you're like, blacksmith, doctor, gambler.
Mm-hmm.
And what a time when do you think it would be better or worse? Probably not with guns, but if you could just have duels to settle dispute. Like, what about like an old-fashioned sword duels or still a thing?
Apparently, there's some country in Europe that still had, like, the law was still where there was duels allowed.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, no one's done it. I mean, but it was pretty recent. Like, it had to be. It was like in 1970s or some shit. I read some article once where it was some duel was like some dude called out another guy in a duel because it was still legal in whatever country it was, and I don't know, it got settled out.
God help us all if gun duels ever become legal in the U.S. because it won't be pistols. People in this country will, they'll be going around with fucking rocket launchers in the back of their cars. Like, so please, somebody duel me. Yeah. I just got this surface to air missile that I want to explode on a motherfucker. I don't think we're ready for throwback to duels in the U.S.
Number 6, he was fired for shooting his own deputy from 1869 to 1871. Hickock served as a marshal in the Kansas towns of Hay City and Abilene, getting involved in several shootouts. In October 1871, after shooting an Abilene saloon owner, he suddenly glimpsed another figure running towards him out of the corner of his eye and fired twice. It turned out to be his special deputy marshal, Mike Williams. The killing of his own man affected Hickock for the rest of his life. 2 months later, he was relieved of his duties. Oh, poor Wild Bill.
Okay, two things. First of all, they really needed LinkedIn back then because if you heard the dates, this was all after the dueling incident.
Yeah.
So they're like, we need to hire someone. Wait, was it a sheriff or was it a marshal?
The marshal's the one that got shot.
Oh, no, but it was he.
Deputy,
he was
deputy marshal.
No, Hickock was serving as a marshal.
Ah, got it.
So they're like, we have to hire a U.S. marshal. Let's look at Wild Bill's LinkedIn. Notorious gambler. Yeah. He was dueling motherfuckers. Yeah, that's the guy. But I don't think they had that resource.
No.
So they really probably could have avoided a lot of things if it's just a little bit better resume checking. But that was tough to come by back then.
Number 7, he acted alongside Buffalo Bill. Now no longer a lawman, Hickock turned to the stage to make a living. In 1873, his old friend Buffalo Bill Cody asked him to join his troupe, and the two performed together in Rochester, New York. But Hickock disliked the theater, even shooting out a spotlight during one performance, and began drinking. He left the troupe and returned west. Pretty good.
Yep.
Last one. Number 8, he walked out on his wife to hunt gold. Now 39 and suffering from glaucoma, which affected his shooting skills, he married circus owner Agnes Thatcher Lake, but left her shortly after to seek his fortune hunting gold in the Black Hills of Dakota. He traveled to the town of Deadwood, South Dakota, aboard the same wagon train as another famous Western hero, Calamity Jane, who would later be buried alongside him. And I think that was the last one you had for Mr. Hickock.
Maybe I tipped it wrong. I wanted to skip the acting one and just touch on the fact that he was murdered end of his life while playing cards.
Oh yeah, number 9.
And yes, as you mentioned, he was holding the dead man's hand, which I think is black aces and eights.
On August 1st, 1876, Hickock was playing poker in the Nuttall and Mann Saloon, number 10 in Deadwood, for some reason, likely because there was no other seat available. He was sitting with his back to the door, something he didn't normally do. In walked drifter Jack McCall, who pulled out his gun and shot him in the back of the head. Oof. Hickock died instantly. McCall was acquitted of murder by a jury of local miners, but a retrial reversed the verdict and he was hanged. So, yeah, he said he was holding the dead man's hand, who was aces and eights. And it's still to this day in like Texas Hold'em, if you have, and it doesn't have to necessarily be the black aces and eights, but if you have ace 8, they call that whole cards the dead man's hand.
I mean, I feel like he should have been able to read the tea leaves on that one. He was in Deadwood. He was holding the dead man's hand. It's like, come on, Wild Bill. Keep your head on a swivel at the very least. Joking aside, I don't know about you. I never sit with my back to the door. I don't know why. I mean, maybe it's a little bit paranoid.
I think I try not to, and sometimes there's no way around it.
No, I just don't. I won't do it.
Yeah, if and what's funny is like even like military guys are trained to like not sit like hardened military dudes will not sit with their back to an open door. They'll.
You know who else wouldn't sit to with his back to an open door?
Who?
Joel.
The Last of Us, episode 8, titled, what the fuck was it called? It was called When We Are in Need. This was the one.
This was the cannibal rapey episode.
Yeah. Holy shit. Hang on to your pants. Do you want to go through the plot kind of?
No, not really. I think we spend sometimes a little bit too much time recapping.
Sure.
Where if the person's seen it, they're like, yeah, no, I know. I just watched that this week. So I mean, let's touch on phrasing maybe a little bit with this episode. Let us discuss some of the different aspects in the show. So first of all, let's just start. We have a new antagonist.
Yeah. His name is David. Was it David?
Sounds right.
Let me see. Yeah, his name is David. So yeah, during the course of Ellie kind of, taking care of Joel, she goes hunting, she finds a deer, shoots him, and then she encounters this dude, David, who's like, hey, we want some of that deer meat. We got people to feed.
So yeah, basically he's the leader of another little outpost kind of colony thing. And it's funny. We've seen a lot of this, right? There's, I'm not as familiar with Walking Dead, but there was the mayor,
right?
The
governor, but yeah.
I just demoted him. I'm like, motherfucker, this is not a state. You're the mayor. This is a town.
Yeah.
You have to work your way up. You have to go through the local political scene, and then you can get promoted to the governor. Okay, so anyhow, the president,
Sure.
and we had just seen in a previous episode where there was this kind of communist sort of, we rule by tribunal, everyone helps out, and now we have a whole different vibe, right? We've got this one guy, David, leading everything.
He seems to me, at least at first, to be like their pastor or something, or maybe he was their pastor. I'm maybe skipping on a detail here, but he seemed to be like leading them with sermons and shit, and that's how he got like their attention, and maybe that's how he got rising from the ranks to the power he's got over these people.
Well, in the character history they give in the show, he had been a teacher, and then after the apocalypse, he quote unquote found God. And as we find out, though, it seems like
it's a little twisted.
His actual belief in God might be a little circumspect. So first, and just the basic scenario is that it is winter in this town, which is somewhere near southern Colorado. And it's just freezing. They don't have a lot of food, and shit's getting real. So just as a villain / antagonist in general, like, did he work for you? Did he not?
Yes. Oh, yes. More so than in the video game. In the video game, I don't remember if I had creepy pedophile vibes from the character. Maybe there was, or maybe I missed it, but it wasn't as. It was a lot stronger seeing it acted out in a show. So not only was he's leading his people and feeding them their own dead people, like he's like people go missing and he.
Yeah, well, that was a scene early on. The daughter's like, when do we get to bury my father? He's like, well, it's too cold. We can't dig in the ground.
Yeah.
Which, Mondo,
Yeah.
as we discussed earlier, that's a real thing. They didn't have a 30-pound demolition hammer plugged into a frayed electrical cord to dig the earth up. They had to do it by with shovels. So that probably was a pretty believable excuse. But the real reason was they're just like, it was like this, the South Park episode. It's like, little girl, did you like that chili? Well, that was your dad chili.
He literally has some of these deceased members of the group hanging in a meat locker with like, they're dead with like missing limbs and shit. And one of them had like the ribs exposed. Like he's they're making chili.
Oh, like it is a butcher shop.
Yeah.
And it's just a hog hanging from some meat hooks.
Which kind of, I don't know. I think it's kind of weird that he says he's found God, but he's also feeding people, which is like, what are you doing?
Now, do you think they're like Native American style? They're eating every part of the animal / person?
I don't know.
And do you think amongst the people who know, they're fighting over who gets to eat the dick, or do they just chop that off?
I heard it's a delicacy. Or no, that's balls. That's balls, not dick. Balls are a delicacy. Or
maybe it's both. It's like, I get the balls this time. You got the balls last time. Like I wish there was a little bit more choice of word, but fleshing out.
Yeah.
Just so we could get some of these intricacies.
He for sure if the governor, when you're referring to Walking Dead, if the governor was like the biggest dickhead, like the apex dickhead of all the baddies, I think this guy David is like, so far, because I have not seen, I don't know anything about Last of Us season 2 or what's going to happen in the future, but so far this guy, of all the people they've encountered, is like the most like malicious, like just dickhead, like evil.
He's the one that you're rooting for. Really, just any sort of death. Doesn't have to be a slow death. And then I thought there was a good sort of ramping up, because he does have that sort of pastor energy early on. Like, it's like, you're all my children, you're part of my flock, and I'm looking after you. And then there's that moment where it's like, and you step out of line, I will smack the shit out of you.
Oh, he hits multiple. Yeah, he hits multiple people, like just like a abusive husband or abusive father or something. It's just he's not a good person.
But it's because I love you.
Yeah.
Do you think that ramp up would have benefited from being a little bit slower?
Well, the season's only. I mean,
Yeah.
knowing that we only have a 9 episode season, like yeah, they could have made this whole thing 2 episodes. Like they did that with Sam and Henry, and they did that with this one deserved more than just the one episode. I think.
I think that's actually my biggest complaint.
Yeah.
We can come back to that.
Sure.
Just to wrap up the David character, I think the actor did a great job. Like
Oh,
I said,
yeah.
he had the pastor energy. Is there, if you were recasting, you had to recast with another actor, you could put anyone else in that role, who would you pick?
I don't know, man. That's something you have to like. I think Jeffrey Dean Morgan in Walking Dead. He did a fantastic Negan. Like you fucking hated this guy, his fucking smirk, his little kind of. So this guy, the fact that he's a redhead also lends the idea like, oh, I don't really like this guy. There's a whole joke about redheaded people. No one likes redheaded people. The fact that he's a redheaded dude also was like kind of added to like it's easy to dislike him. I could think of what's the guy that does Hannibal. What's the actor's name?
Don't know.
The actor.
Yeah, I don't know.
He's a very famous actor, and I can't believe I'm brain farting on the guy's name. Hold on, I'll tell you. Uno memento.
Oh, are you talking about in the original Silence of the Lambs?
Anthony Hopkins, yes.
Oh, okay.
Anthony Hopkins would have been, just because of the whole cannibal thing. Like Anthony Hopkins, is this highly intelligent guy, calm usually, except for when he flips the switch and all of a sudden he's biting someone's face off. I think he would have done the role justice, just being kind of like, oh, I'm nice, I'm a good.
See here, I thought about it. I don't think the actor can have like too much creepy energy naturally.
Oh,
because my first thought was like Steve Buscemi, because in the later part where
when you said Steve Buscemi, I think of the googly eyes character he doesn't.
Yeah,
I'm like, yeah, he's not evil. He's got googly eyes.
But I feel like it would have to be someone who actually kind of does have that like warm, welcoming presence, and so then it gets all that much creepier and more fucked up.
Yeah.
When that turn starts to happen.
Yeah.
So there's no way I don't think they could get this actor. But if I could cast anyone, I would have casted Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks as the cannibal guy?
I think that would have been just because you would also, I think that would play on people's relationship with Tom Hanks by his other movies, where you're kind of expecting him to be a good guy.
Has Tom Hanks ever been a villain that you can think of?
I don't know if he has.
Because like John Travolta usually has played heroic characters, but he's got that one movie where there's a couple movies where he plays villains, and he's got like this kind of friendly presence, and then he flips the switch and he's a fucking just a nightmare of a person.
So, same thing with Tom Cruise. I still for my money, my favorite role that I've ever seen Tom Cruise in was Les Goldman, I think his name was, in Tropic Thunder, where he's just the grossest, like sleaziest movie producer, and it was amazing. I'm like, part of it was the novelty of it was Tom Cruise, but he's also incredible.
Who's the key grip? You? Okay, I want you to punch him right in the face.
So I looked this up. I don't think I've seen any of these movies, maybe because they didn't do very well, but apparently 4 times Tom Hanks has played a villain.
Ooh.
Road to Perdition, Cloud Atlas, which apparently was terrible.
He was a villain in Cloud Atlas?
This is what the list says. I've never seen it. The Lady Killers. Listen, it says the character he plays is just goofy to start with, but has a sinister and diabolical lean to him.
Forrest Gump.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he was an abomination. Oh, God, I was trying to channel. I feel like that there's some religious people who are like, people with retardation are an abomination of the devil, and they have to put so maybe they would see him as a villain. And then there was a movie called The Circle.
I've seen that one. Oh yeah, that one, he was a dick in that one. I've seen that one. But it's crazy.
That's it. And then also in Castaway, he killed Wilson. So I don't know. I think he would have been a good and a good in that role, especially if it was 2 episodes where, like, in the first episode, you actually kind of are rooting for him. You're like, oh, he's just trying to feed his people, and then these little, maybe not even red, but like orange flags, yellow flags start to pop up, and by the end,
amber flags, amber alert, amber flags. There you go.
That was a good one. My
Yeah.
bad. The amber flags start to pop up, and you're like, "Oh shit!" And then the second episode is just a little bit crazy.
So that scene where Ellie is locked, he's got Ellie locked up,
Mhm.
and he's like, "You got a choice here,
Yeah.
and it's either this or that, or we eat you or what." That scene where like she puts her hand in the
Oh,
thing.
he turns the creepy pedophile
Oh,
dial.
dude.
He was like at like 2 before, because I feel like any sort of reverend pastor does have a
Yeah,
little bit to
you
begin
get a
with,
baseline. Yeah,
and then he just cranks that dial up to 10. You're like, "Oh no, Ellie."
that scene. Jesus, oh my God, I just like I felt gross. I felt gross like watching like him just touching her hand, and I was like, oh my God, really? Like it just, ugh.
That was one scene that I felt like popped way better in the show than it did in the game, because it was the same thing. She fucks up his finger in
Yeah.
the game, but as decent as the animation was, it just something about seeing them like in that close physical proximity,
Uh-huh.
flesh and blood humans. It hit different for me. Do you think that was the best scene?
No, the best scene and by far the strongest performance. And I'm not seeing a ton of Bella Ramsey's work or Game of
Mhm.
Thrones is this, but Bella or Ellie fucking going ape shit on David
Mhm.
when the building's on fire.
Yeah.
She's like slashes his like Achilles or something like that, and he falls to the floor, and she just goes. You don't see that. You don't see the camera on him. You just see her and her attacking
Yeah.
like him viciously. That shit was powerful. Like I felt like justice was being served. I was like, fuck yeah, like dude, like I felt I was getting aggro, seeing her getting aggro and like taking out her frustrations on him was like, you do it, keep going, keep doing it. Like that was we're talking about how Bella Ramsey's performance has kind of increased and gotten better and better
Yeah.
over the episode. Like this is to me, this is like the Emmy winner, the Academy or whatever, the award winning moment for Bella Ramsey in the show.
Let's switch to nitpicks, to see if we've got any, because there was another one where I agree her performance incredible, but that was another one where again it hit a little bit different for me, because I was like, okay, I get it, you're a weird, creepy pedophile, cannibal, rapist, but it's like she had just stabbed him, the building is on fire, and it's like maybe like subdue her and get out of the building before you try to rape her. I don't
Yeah.
know. That part didn't seem really that realistic, where it's like, well, you're gonna die of smoke inhalation.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you really want to get your rocks off, weird cannibal guy.
Yeah.
Maybe he was just a some sort of like bloodlust or something. That seemed um something about that was off to me, because I don't feel like that is actually how that would play out. And in the game, it's a video game. You're just like,
Yeah.
oh, there's fire, there's smoke, there's pixels. But when it's really humans, I'm like, no, you can't breathe that in.
Yeah.
Was there anything else?
No.
I would have liked to see this as 2 episodes.
Yeah, they're doing like these scenes like in tandem. Like Joel is like he's coming out, he's coming to, and he's like, I gotta go save Ellie, I
Mhm.
gotta go help her. And so that's happening at the same time as Ellie's like trying to break out of
Yeah.
the little jail thing. And in my mind, the way it should be, quote unquote, should be written is that Joel comes to the rescue, saves the day, helps Ellie. But it turns out Ellie just took care of matters in her own hands and
Yeah.
took care of herself. By the time Joel's arrives, like Ellie's like, she's like in bloodlust, like she's seeing red. She doesn't even know what the fuck if Joel's like. It took her a while to like snap out of whatever she was in to like notice. Oh, it's Joel. He's here to help me.
Well, and that was one difference between the game and the show. A very small difference, but in the game, same thing. Ellie hacks that guy to pieces, saves herself,
Yeah.
and then like Joel actually pulls her off of him as
Yeah.
she's disfiguring his body. And in this one, like she walks out, and then it's sort of the same thing, but like outside in the snow. That's one where it's funny. Yes, it would have made a lot more sense for her to just get out, because, like I said, burning building, smoke inhalation. But I did feel like at that point, if you're gonna lean into it that much already, just have him physically pull her off the guy.
Yeah.
Um, the other thing though, I do wish they had done this differently. in so many of the other episodes, I was actually praising them for saying, yeah, you can't have Joel go on this like massive murder spree. But I would have liked to see a mini murder spree here, right?
Who would he have murdered though?
There were a bunch of guys looking for him, so he fucked 2 of them up, but there could have been more guys in the town.
Okay,
Just a little bit of foreshadowing
sure.
for what might be to come. Because I do remember, or just a little bit more of Joel trying to physically get to her.
Yeah.
Just with that sort of tension. Because that was another thing where in the game it wasn't cutting back like scene for scene, but you played as Ellie and then you played as Joel trying to get to her. You played as Ellie, and that was the tensest I've ever been in my life playing a video game where I was Joel trying to get to Ellie, and I remember.
And then plus you have bad aim too. So you're
Yeah,
like,
well, yeah. This was the first time I played a video game in like 13, 14 years.
Yeah.
And I was freaking the fuck out because I wasn't aiming well as Joel, which actually is probably pretty accurate. He was super fucked up at that point.
Yeah.
He'd just been like stabbed and in fact, had a bacterial infection and everything. And I'm just like, no, he's gonna die because I can't use this goddamn fucking controller.
Yeah.
But I like that tension really heightened it for me. And you just didn't have that in this episode.
Yeah.
Again, they were just trying to move through it. I think, keep it in probably about a 60-minute block. So that's another spot where I think it would have benefited from a double episode.
And yeah, again, it should have been 2 episodes because in the game, what happens is, Ellie kills a deer and encounters David and this other dude, right? And then the one other dude goes and calls for help, and David stays behind with Ellie. And there's a whole scene or series of moments in the video game where David and Ellie are working together to fight off other fucking attackers.
Was it zombies or raiders?
I think it was both. No.
Zombies. Yeah, it was probably zombies.
Okay, so zombies. So they're working together, which makes the flip flop of David like showing his true colors like that much more powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh fuck, I thought this guy was on my team a little bit ago, and all of a sudden now he's trying to eat me and or fuck me. Like, so that would have, if they would have done that into the show.
Hopefully not in that order, but yes.
Hey, you never know, man. He might be doing that to some of those dead bodies in that meat locker. But yeah, this could have used two episodes.
Yeah, I also actually would have liked to see a lot more interaction between David and his flock.
Yeah,
so to speak. We see a little bit, right, with the girl whose father died. That I think if we understand, Joel, that was the guy that Joel killed.
Yeah,
was her father.
Yeah.
But just to kind of expand on that a little bit, it's funny. Maybe I'm just being greedy, but I'm kind of bummed this is the last episode.
This next one tonight
coming up.
Yeah, it's the last one until season 2.
And this like you said, I mean, I think that in some ways this section really was the climax.
Yeah.
David was really hoping it was going to be the climax, but it was cut a little bit short.
You're fucking gross, dude.
Well, I'm not the one who wrote that. I didn't try to eat and or rape Ellie. But yeah, it just did feel a little bit rushed. And I think the last episode, what is it, 9?
Episode 9
will also feel rushed, but that's fine. This is like a hectic, chaotic.
I'm hoping that they do like kind of what where they do the extended episodes. So it's not just an hour; it's like an hour and a half or something like that. It'd be nice if they did that. I don't think they did. I haven't looked at what the runtime is, but it would have been good to have like the last 2. Like Game of Thrones, the last 2 episodes are like 2 hours long.
Yes,
they could have done that with these last 2. I think easily.
Well, by the time this is posted, I'm sure that episode will be out already. But they have showed a lot of restraint, not having Joel kill like copious amounts of humans.
Yeah.
And I wonder how jarring it will be if they just have him go full John Wick.
They should. They may as well. This is the last episode of the season. They got nothing to lose.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of loses it, right? Like that's the thing is he has been struggling with sort of the morality of what he has done, and you see that a lot. Like there's even places where he's like trying not to kill people. I mean, I think most notably, remember that there was the scene when they're in Kansas City and he finds the sniper who turns out to be old man. He's like, dude, just put it down. Like, don't. He's trying to find a peaceful resolution, and it doesn't end up happening. And yeah, I mean, I feel like there's going to be a 15-minute John Wick sequence where Joel's like, no fucks given. We're not doing this shit again. and do do you want it to be a really heavy, like action heavy sequence in this last episode?
I hope so. I really hope so. I'm crossing my fingers that it is. It's so because so far the show as a whole has been every episode. Well, there's been one or two kind of shitty episodes, slower episodes, but for the most part, the show as a whole has been really good.
Mhm.
And to cap it off with like a high end, high action John Wick style thing, that would be like done, like perfect season, perfect. You know what I mean?
Right.
We
Well,
are
and yeah, we've got like literally a couple minutes left.
sure.
The last thing I would say, and this actually made me even more impressed with Diego.
Pedro Pascal.
I was about to say Diego Luna. That was Andor with Pedro Pascal's acting performance. Was I saw him do a internet video interview for a show called Hot Ones.
I just saw it this morning. I was going to bring it up too.
And one, like, he did pretty good. I mean, so
it makes
basically,
me want to be his best friend.
the conceit of the show is that he's interviewed while eating progressively spicier and spicier hot wings.
I forget the guy's name. It's Chris something is the host of the show, and he's always had like musicians and artists do this, and they all act like Aaron's saying they go from like the easiest hot sauce to, and they ramp it up every. And you're eating one chicken wing doused in this hot sauce, and every wing becomes with a hotter and hotter sauce, and yeah, by the time he gets to the last one, he's like,
yeah, and the thing is, his name is Sean Evans. He asks really good questions.
Chris?
Yeah, Chris Evans. That I think that's
what I meant to
Captain
say.
America. They're
Chris,
basically
Sean,
the
white
same
guys.
thing.
They're white guys.
But the other thing about Pedro Pascal is like he is just so different than the characters he plays.
Yeah.
You know, there's some actors who are kind of playing like a version of themselves. Like Denzel Washington is just playing Denzel Washington.
Yeah.
In like different iterations and but Pedro Pascal, I was like, dude, that guy would be so fun to hang out. But
I'm saying
he's just like a happy-go-lucky. Like the way his voice sounds is completely different. Like he's going through a full transformation to play a guy like Joel. So if you haven't checked it out, that interview on Hot Ones will probably change the way you look at Pedro Pascal if you've never seen them.
Yeah, because he's done like Narcos. When he was in Game of Thrones, like all the characters he's been playing are pretty
like badasses,
serious badasses. And Mandalorian, there's like very tiny hints of levity or comedy in there, buried here and there. And even Joel, very dry, very maybe a couple jokes here and there, but to see him like just be himself, you're like, I want to hang out with that guy. I want to be his best friend. I want to get drunk with. Apparently he's a stoner. Apparently he smokes weed. Like it's like not a hidden thing.
Dude, Joel could use some fucking weed. Someone needs to get the character Joel some weed. If they could have just smoked him out, the Fireflies, and maybe they would have all. Well, I don't. I don't want to spoil anything. Yeah. I was about to say something, and I was like, "Oh, no, don't wait for that." So let's cut it off here.
Sure.
Looking forward to the final episode, and then we're gonna have to figure out something else to cover for future episodes. So I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching. We will see you guys in a week. Bye-bye.